Hey everyone, what's going on? In this video, I want to show how some of the themes and some of the topics that I have been talking about recently are all kind of interrelated, and they all seemingly are synced up to space and the moon. And this is really important because we're currently in the 51st anniversary of the moon landing, and it's now the year 21, and in the language of Gematria, if you write out the word moon just so happens to equal 51 and also 21. And I'll show why some of these other ones are important as we move along here, but recall back in April of 2020, I made a blog post talking about how I thought that Sean Connery could possibly die this year because he's synced up to coronavirus, and he was also synced up to the moon. And he just so happened to die on Halloween, and on Halloween, there was a full moon that could be seen all over the world for the first time since, I believe, 1944. So Sean Connery ends up dying on the night of a special full moon. And another reason I thought Sean Connery was important to the moon was because there was a Batman shooting in 2012, remember, in Aurora, Colorado? And during the previews of that movie, they had a preview for the James Bond film called Skyfall. And in that preview, they showed the Aurora Plaza in China, and, it showed the word Aurora. And then later that night, James Holmes supposedly shot up the Aurora Batman movie. And 1 month, and that movie just so happened to come out on the anniversary of Apollo 11 landing on the moon, and 1 month and 5 days later in 2012, the first guy to walk on the moon, Neil Armstrong, died on Sean Connery's birthday. It was 1 month and 5 days later. Look how the word moon also equals 15. And in 2017, we had the death of Roger Moore, another Bond actor, and he's the only James Bond to go to the moon. And what I noticed when looking up him, I noticed there was this thing called the Great Moon Hoax in the year 1835, I believe it was. And that Great Moon Hoax just so happened to be on Sean Connery's birthday. And when you look up that Great Moon Hoax, it is about a hoax about a civilization of bat people who live on the moon. Think about Batman and so on, right? Batman, bat people. So Sean Connery ends up dying on the anniversary, or on the night of a full moon and so on. And we've also had the death of 3 Bond girls in the past year now, too. And there's some other things that are going on here. I've talked about an Allen Iverson theme, too. And I will explain a little bit more about this because I've had some synchronicity and so on, but the whole reason Allen Iverson was important to the death of MF Doom, and MF Doom also died on Halloween, right? He died on the same day that Sean Connery died. This date important to the moon, and he wore the New York Knicks jersey of Patrick Ewing, and Patrick Ewing and Allen Iverson are the only #1 draft picks out of Georgetown, the Jesuit university, and a whole lot more, right? You can come back and watch some of these videos where I talk about it. I talk about a lot about the number 218, which is also important to the moon, which I will explain here. But, there's some interrelated things going on. And we also have had Jeff Bezos, or Bezos, however you say it. We've had him being surpassed by Elon Musk recently in amount of money. And was it yesterday, we got a story about him stepping down as the CEO of Amazon, and that just below that story on CNN, they had a story about Elon Musk and the SpaceX rocket crashing or whatever, exploding. So there's definitely, think about Elon Musk and space and so on. There is definitely a space narrative, and I will get to it, but look, even Tom Brokaw announced he was retiring. And if you go back to my Allen Iverson videos, I talked about how Tom Brokaw was important to Allen Iverson. And then, a few days later, one of the mainstream media stories is that Tom Brokaw is retiring. So, there's a huge narrative with this. But I want to look at, well, let me explain one more thing before I go into this Bond girl thing. So, remember the RV bombing on Christmas, too? It was near where the Batman building is in Nashville. It was actually next to an AT&T building, but the Batman building that's just around the corner is also an AT&T building. And I talked about how AT&T is synced up to 9/11, and 9/11 is also important to the number 218. And I also talked about how it's synced up to the movie They Live, and They Live equals 218, and a whole lot more. But, think about the Batman building, and think about Harley Quinn and Anthony Quinn Warner. And I had talked about how I had recently blogged about a guy named Richard Quinn. So I was like, there's something interesting with Quinn. And I was like, thinking about the only other Quinns that would even make sense. And I thought of Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. And I looked up Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. And it just so happens that Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman is played by this lady, Jane Seymour. And she's, well, not this Jane Seymour, but Jane Seymour, the actress, is mostly known for being the Bond girl in the film Live and Let Die. And recall earlier in 2020, Donald Trump didn't wear the mask at the Mask Factory, and they had the Guns N' Roses song Live and Let Die blaring in the background. And I also mentioned in that post how it was synced up to James Bond and so on, and Sean Connery once again, and then Sean Connery later goes on and dies. So, and right after I mentioned this, right after the RV bombing, I talked about this lady possibly being important, and then, 4 or 5 days later, the Bond girl Tanya Roberts just so happened to die, right? Tanya Roberts. And she's also in that 70s show. She's in A View to a Kill that equals 218. Tanya Roberts equals 218. Let's put it out really quick. Tanya Roberts equals 218. A View to a Kill equals 218. There's a whole bunch of important things with the number 218. I think I pulled up a thing here about like Osama bin Laden 218, Twin Towers 218, the World Trade Center 218. The World Trade Center construction began on August 6th in the year 1968, which is the same year that AT&T was made 911 the emergency dialing code, and a whole lot more. But August 6th is typically the 218th day of the year. If you write out conspiracy theory, it equals 218, and think about 9/11 and conspiracy theory, and so on, and a whole lot more. Another truther that died named Jeff Censored, who equals 218 in his last video that never got aired. It had a thumbnail of the movie They Live and so on, and whatever. So, there's something important to how this Batman narrative is synced up to James Bond and synced up to the moon. And on January 25th, I was at work, and somebody had texted me, actually 2 people messaged me about DJing, and because I do DJing on the side and so on, and I wanted to look up, because a lot of times, I'm not a very organized person, so a lot of times when somebody asks me, I'll send a message to myself, like to my email, through my phone, and then I just go back and I'll look through my messages on Facebook and whatever. So I was like, crap, I don't know if I have a DJ gig this day, and it was for like October something in this coming year. And I was going through my phone, kind of looking through all the things that I sent to myself, and I noticed one that had Roddy Piper on it, and it really stuck out to me because I've been recently talking a whole lot about the importance of They Live and Roddy Piper and Ronda Rousey turning 34 years old just after the 34th Royal Rumble, and it's a big number I followed with Ronda Rousey and Roddy Piper's and They Live. But I'm assuming the reason I took this screenshot was because I did blog about this tiger story in Knoxville. But as I was looking at it, the other story right here was about the lady named Diana Rigg dying. And Diana Rigg just so happens to be another Bond girl. I never realized that another Bond girl had died just before Sean Connery had died. And when I looked her up, I noticed her birthday just so happened to be July 20th, which just so happens to be the day of the Batman shooting, also the day of the moon landing, right? So I'm going, look at this. Once again, it's synced up to the moon. And what's even funnier is that she just so happened to die a span of 52 days before Sean Connery died, and she died 52 days after her birthday, the anniversary of the moon landing. And if you write out Diana Rigg, her name equals 52. And if you write out Sean Connery, it equals 52. And if you write out James Bond, it equals 52. And this is also interesting because in the year 21, on July 20th, it's going to be the 52nd anniversary of the moon landing. And, I've talked a lot about these Francis Bacon ciphers being important, and how the number 52 was really, really important to the Francis Bacon ciphers that have been super relevant to all of the stories in the past year or so. And, there's 52 letters in the Francis Bacon ciphers, and the word God equals 52, and think about how Kabbalah equals 52, and Gematria equals 52, and there's 52 cards in a playing card deck, and a whole lot more. It's the 239 is the 52nd prime number. That's why Pope Francis came to the United States in the 239th year of the United States, right? Because the word Pope equals 52, and so does President and White House and government, and that's why he went to the White House on the date 23/9. And it was also synced up to the country France and the ISIS attack, and ISIS equals 52, and Pope Francis arrived in America on the, on the anniversary of the French Republic, which was 52 days before the Paris, France attack in 2015, right? And Paris, France equals 239, right? So does Illuminati. It equals 239, right? So there's an interesting connection here. But further, I looked up, so we also had the death of Pussy Galore, the Bond girl, on April 5th of 2020. And remember when she died, I mentioned how she was in the movie Goldfinger, and I said, I talked about how the first concert I ever went to was a band called Goldfinger and also Weird Al. And they played in Sioux City, Iowa. And they're mostly known to me for remaking the Bad Company song, I Feel Like Making Love. And then a month after Pussy Galore dies, we get the death of the lead singer of Bad Company. It's like, what are the odds of this? But, synced up to Goldfinger and so on. But Honor Blackman, or Pussy Galore, she died 158 days before Diana Rigg died, September 10th. And Pussy Galore equals 158. And Tanya Roberts, the other Bond girl who died recently, equals 158. So there's some relationship going on here. Diana Rigg was the only Bond girl that was in she was the Bond girl that was in the only film with the actor, I don't know what's going on with my thing here, but George Lazenby. And George Lazenby equals 56, and Diana Rigg also equals 56. Sean Connery equals 56. We're in the time of coronavirus, it equals 56, and toilet paper 56, and Anthony Fauci 56, and so on, right? The list goes on, but the film that she was in was called On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Sorry, it's hard to see. I'm sitting on my garage. It's like freezing cold out here too, but what was interesting about this film was that it came out in the year 1969, the year of the moon landing, right? So, and her name's Diana. If you look up the goddess Diana is the goddess of the moon. So, the very next day, I noticed, I went back and looked it up, or maybe it wasn't the very next day, but a few posts later, I guess it was the next day, but I went back and re-looked at the James Bond film, because the new James Bond film called No Time to Die has been pushed back a number of times, right, because of coronavirus, and they decided to push it back again, and now it's not going to come out until the date October 8th, 10/8. And once again, 10/8 is an important number to the moon. What is it? Isn't it and also the sun, because I can't remember what it is. I have it on my Facebook, but whatever it is, like the Earth is supposedly like 108 diameters of the moon away from the moon, and then the sun is like 108 suns away from the Earth. I can't remember it all, but the moon and the sun are both important to the number 8, 108, and then now they're pushing this film back to the date 10/8, like 108, and it just so happens to be 2 months and 18 days after the anniversary of the moon landing. And this is also interesting because in Hebrew, if you use the Hebrew lettering of Gematria, the word moon sums to 218. 218, 218. It's also interesting, it's 38, and I've talked a lot about how this year is seemingly important because the date 218 just so happens to be 3 months and 8 days after my 38th birthday. So there's something important to it, right? If you write out the word moon in Hebrew, it's 218. James Bond sums to 185. World Trade Center sums to 185. Donald John Trump sums to 185. The World Trade Center attack happened 185 days after Osama bin Laden's birthday. Also, the word sun in the Hebrew lettering equals 10 and 55. And, that's even more interesting because, the word God equals 10 and 55, and the word Satan equals 10 and 55. So, just sticks out to me. But let me go back to this James Bond post about the film being pushed back. So I was looking more into it. It's 2 months and 18 days after the 52nd anniversary now. And I just decided to look up the people in Apollo 11 again. I knew it was Buzz Aldrin, and Buzz Aldrin, of course, was born on 20/1, which is important because the word Apollo equals 201, and Neil Alden Armstrong equals 201, and there's a big narrative with the Jesuits in 201 that we've talked about all year, and how it's synced up to event 201 that, predicted a coronavirus pandemic that killed 65 million people. And it's all, it was hosted by Bill Gates and some other people, right? Can't think of what it is, the World Health Organization or something, or can't think of what the other ones are, but Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation was part of it. And think about Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates, and think about Seattle and the Space Needle, and then they're synced up to Elon Musk, who has SpaceX, and then he sent his Tesla Roadster to outer space right before the Stoneman Douglas stuff with Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, and lately we've had the Marjorie Taylor Greene stuff in the news about Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. I mean, it's just unbelievable. But anyway, the other guy that went to he didn't get on the moon, but he was on Apollo 11 with Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, is Michael Collins. And look when his birthday is. The same day that Sean Connery died, right? So Neil Armstrong dies on Sean Connery's birthday, and this guy, who was also on Apollo 11, just so happens to have a birthday of the day that Sean Connery died. So he's going to be 91 years old this year, which is an interesting number because space equals 91, and rockets equal 91, and the Cold War came to an end in the year 91. The word Apollo equals 91. So, and Buzz Aldrin's also just turned 91 years old this year. But notice Buzz Aldrin equals 52 as well. 52 and 56, just like Sean Connery. Also this 264 number, which is really important to Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. Elon Reeve Musk, I believe, equals 264. We'll type it out here. Maybe it's just Elon Musk. No, it's Elon Reeve Musk equals 264. And Jeffrey Preston Bezos equals 264, and a whole lot more. Maybe I'll pull up the post in a little while if I can remember it, but it's number 264. I've been talking a whole lot about it. And anyway, if you go from Buzz Aldrin's birthday to Halloween, it's 9 months and 11 days, right? And if you go from Buzz Aldrin's birthday to the day that Neil Armstrong died, it was 218 days, right? And once again, Osama bin Laden 218, Twin Towers 218, the World Trade Center 218, 9/11, 9 months and 11 days, 218 days. There is some type of relationship here. Buzz Aldrin equals 185. Apollo 11 landed on the moon 185 days before his birthday. Once again, the World Trade Center equals 185. I guess I wrote all that in here, but I wrote a few other interesting things in here, and I'll skip over it for now, but I'm watching the day. St. Paddy's Day is an interesting day as well, because it could possibly be the 218th episode of the Gematria effect. And St. Paddy's Day is 3/17, and the car crash that happened in Zach's house on Christmas Eve in 2016, it was 3 months and 17 days after his first Gematria effect, and his first Gematria effect was 317 days before his birthday, and Zach's birthday just so happens to be the anniversary of Neil Armstrong stepping foot on the moon, right? And Zachary Hubbard equals 66, which is the 66 prime number is 317, and that's Joe Biden's 56th day as being the president, and Joe Biden's Irish Catholic. Think about St. Paddy's Day, Irish Catholic. We just had Conor McGregor lose to Dustin Poirier, or however you say that guy's name, and that guy was synced up to the Kansas City Chiefs. And it was UFC 257, which is the 55th prime number, and we're going into Super Bowl 55. Then Dustin Diamond dies, and his nickname was the Diamond. It's just absolutely stupid. So anyway, I make all of these posts, talking about the moon. Let me go back up here. So, James Bond movie synced up to the moon. And Bobby told me that the word moon equals 218 in the Hebrew lettering. And I'm going, that's so interesting, right? And there's all these connections. And then I finally responded. I guess, I don't know. I'm so terrible at responding to messages. I get so many messages, and then half the time I don't even know what to write back, and then, and I'm, super busy anyway. I don't even text people that often, honestly. I don't mean to be that way, it just happens. Sometimes I don't know what to write, and then I forget about it, and then, a week later I write about it, and then a lot of the times the messages are ghosted, and there's no way for me to even comment back to, so I'm sorry if I don't get back to you, but it's just how it is. I have a lot of limited time making these videos with kids and work and everything else, and when I finally get a chance to get on the computer, the last thing I want to do is find a million comments and comment back to them when I'm trying to find all these new pieces and follow these things that are going on, So I truly am sorry if I don't respond. I mean to a lot of times, and sometimes when I'm at work, I'll get on my phone and I'll type something up, but I seriously hate doing it on my phone, and half the time that's the only way that it will work. But, moral of the story, I finally responded to him, and because he sent me a Facebook message too, but, he talked about the sun and the moon and who I'm bonded to, and I just didn't really understand what I was supposed to really write back, right? So, but it's just interesting, the sun and the moon and bonded. And of course I had synchronicity while writing up this blog post. All of a sudden I heard the TV talk about the moon. There's the Peppa Pig my kid was watching while he was laying in bed or whatever. It's whatever. It says something about a trip to the moon and numbers, right? A trip to the moon, numbers. It's just so funny to me, but synchronicity all of the time, but a trip to the moon's 189 and Halloween's 189, and wasn't MF Doom equal to 189, I think, and New York Knicks 189 or something of the sort. I'll have to go back. You can watch the other video, but I also mentioned it happened a span of 2 months and 18 days after my birthday, which was the day I was watching for, and so on, so. But, yeah, I had the synchronicity with that. But let me find it here. So anyway, after I wrote about this moon post, right, I was at work and... Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Hold on. So anyway, I'm at work the next day, and the girl up front, I usually work in the kitchen, and the girl up front wanted me to watch the register for a little bit, and there was no one in the store, so I just sat down at the little table and chairs that we have, and the thing started, I was looking at my phone, and I noticed that I got a copyright claim on a video that I made in 2015 about Space Jam and why a lot of the NBA players were hurt. And this was a major theme. Zach LaVine that year, the Teen Wolf, he did the Space Jam dunk on Valentine's Day. And the night before, the Teen Wolf Andrew Wiggins had won the MVP of the Rising Star Challenge. And I pointed out this narrative that Andrew Wiggins was traded for Kevin Love, who went to UCLA, and Zach LaVine went to UCLA. And the next day, Russell Westbrook was the MVP of the All-Star game, and he also went to UCLA. And I looked up the game for UCLA on Halloween, the same day that Zach LaVine wore the Space Jam jersey. And the best player, or the leading scorer for UCLA, was Kevin Looney. Think about Looney Tunes and Space Jam, and a whole lot more. You know, the Nebraska Cornhuskers were synced up to it. And then later that year, the Nebraska Cornhuskers went on to play UCLA in the Foster Farms Bowl. Like, a whole bunch of stuff. But Space Jam was really important. And that's also why I thought the Warriors were going to beat the Cavaliers, was because Kevin Love wore the number 0, like the Monstars and a whole lot of stuff. But a lot of the players were getting injured that year as well. And it reminded me of Space Jam. But I got this copyright claim on this video, and I was like, you know, I saw that, and then of course I got up because the thing started dinging for gas, and as I was walking to the register, I saw the time clock said 2:18 on it. I was like, all right, what are the odds? But I looked up the film here, or my YouTube video, and I just so happened to put it out on the date March 6th. And this wouldn't stand out that much to me, except for the fact that I've recently been talking a whole lot about Allen Iverson, and how in 2019, YouTube gave my video about Allen Iverson from 2015 a copyright. They restricted my video. And I pointed out how they did that on the 65th day of the year, and Allen Iverson was important to Philadelphia, and Philadelphia equaled 65, and that same day that they did that, the Philadelphia 76ers lost to the Chicago Bulls because Zach LaVine made a game-winning shot, and Zach LaVine equals 65, and it was the Philadelphia 76ers' 65th game of the season. And then later, on the date 6/5, YouTube completely took my video down. So that video got completely taken down on the date 6/5, and I talked about how they were trying to show me a pattern with it. They were showing me the numbers 19 and 65. And, you know, a lot of times we think that the cabal is this bad thing, but I'm telling you, if you pay attention to these things that they do when they take down your channel or they restrict it, they're actually kind of helping you to see a pattern. And they waited until the year 19 to do this because they wanted me to see the number 19, because when I put my video out, I put it out on 12/12 of 2015, the day leaving 19 days in the year. And Allen Iverson, he's also known as AI. A is the first letter, I is the 9th letter, AI 19, right? And his birthday is 6/7, and 6/7, 67 is the 19th prime number. And when Zach LaVine made that game winner on the day they restricted my video in the year 19, it just so happened to give the Bulls their 19th win of that season. And when they did that, when they restricted it and took it down, it helped me notice that I actually put that video out synced up to Allen Iverson. I put that video out 6 months and 5 days after Allen Iverson's birthday. And his birthday is, or 6/5 is also the 156th day of the year. And me and Allen Iverson's birthdays are separated by 156 days. 156 prime number is also 911. And I talked about how, in my old video, I also talked about Philadelphia and a false flag, right? And the word false flag, or the phrase false flag, equals 156, right? And think about 9/11 and false flag, and, so they were helping me understand a pattern. And this is why I wonder, I mean, I have so many questions with this knowledge, right? And I just truly don't think that everything that is going on is a bad thing. But there's also ways that I feel like they are creating these synchronicities to happen in my life. Because I recently just blogged about Kamala Harris wearing the purple thing like Lisa Simpson, and in that blog post I blog, let me pull it up really quick, but in that blog post I started thinking how it might be connected to the date August 11th or 8/11. And right when I started thinking about that, I got a weird comment on an old video or on an old post about the date 8/11. And there's no way this is a real person. If it's a real person, it blows my mind completely, but... And I'm not saying that this is the case for every time I have synchronicity. All I'm saying is there's a lot of questions, but right as I started thinking about August 11th and 8/11, this person with the letter H as their name, H, commented start. And if you go to this old blog post, what they commented, it has absolutely nothing to do with what I wrote in this blog post. It makes no sense whatsoever. So there's no way that's a real person, is it? The letter H, and they wrote start. And it just makes me wonder, in regards to AI, something that I've really been questioning about. Maybe that is how because it just seems so unrealistic to me that a group of men would be sitting around watching the 8 billion people or whatever on Earth, right? And making all of these things happen. And how would they make my mom have me, like, how would they make her go into labor on a certain day and so on, right? Like, I was born in the year 82 days before my mom's birthday, and my mom's full married and maiden name both equal 82, and now my girlfriend, I have a girlfriend for years now, and her name equals 82 and also 117, and our daughter was born 117 days before her birthday, and then our first son was born on January 17th, 117, and her name also equals 98, and our other son was born 9 months and 8 days after her birthday, and, there has to be an explanation for that, and it just makes, moral of the story is, there's just so much more to learn, right? If they can read our minds, how are we going to stop them? And, think about Hermeticism, too, and how, there's no such thing really as good and bad, right? So, maybe I don't know. There's a lot of bad things going on in the world, so it's hard to agree with what I'm thinking, but, maybe these bad things are actually sometimes good things and so on, right? And I don't know. I don't know what I fully think. That's why I'm saying there's a lot of pieces that need to be known, but if they can read our minds, are we really going to stop them with some type of revolution? And maybe it is to do with AI. Maybe there's a giant computer, or maybe it is robots, and maybe when we're born, they somehow put a chip in us, and they can make somebody have a baby at a certain time, and it's all ran by this algorithm of a giant computer. And, I don't know for sure, but, it's something to question and think about, right? That's all I was saying with Rich, too. Like, don't tell people that the things aren't important, Don't tell people that these things that go on in your own life aren't important, because these things happen every single day. Everything happens by a pattern. And when you say that, you're basically discrediting everything that I've been showing for years. And, I've shown how all types of things are synced up to the media. And just look at the ripple of patterns that happen just by me randomly blogging about him and telling him not to do that. And then Anthony Quinn Warner and Harley Quinn and, Jane Seymour, and he messages me, and then the next day the main story in the media and the sports news was that Dan Quinn was going to go to the Dallas Cowboys, and the Dallas Cowboys are synced up to the AT&T Center, and like the Nashville bombing was synced up to the AT&T building, and Dan Quinn was synced up to the number I was talking about with Rich and law of probability and so on, right? You can't deny this. You can't hold people back and tell them that this doesn't matter, I'm sorry for getting on a tangent, but it's the truth. Like, there's so much more to learn. Don't learn, if there's 10 steps to something, you don't just learn 3 or 4 steps and then just say that all the other ones don't matter. There's a lot more to learn. There's always more to learn. So, but I'm just saying, there's something weird about it, right? So, it doesn't seem like a legit synchronicity to me. But I guarantee there's something I can learn from this, right? There's a pattern that I'm supposed to see with that, right? And it's interesting if you go from August 11th of 2000 to the day that Simpsons episode came out, right? It's 7 months and 8 days, and the word start equals 78. Just like the word Jesuit equals 78. So, I don't know. It's interesting, right? 3/19 is also typically the 78th day of the year. So, they want me to see something with the number 78, it seems, right? There's all kinds of stuff here. Look, Kamala Harris, 264. White House, 264 as well. But this is I made a video about this episode when the Indians were in the World Series and, talked about how Donald Trump was synced up to the Native American theme as well, and talked about how that was synced up to my life all summer, and, I said, I think the Indians are going to be in the World Series that year. Then the Indians were in the World Series, and then we got the Indian pipeline stuff, right, in the media, while the Indians in the World Series, and Bart, this episode is, Bart has a vision of Lisa being the president after Donald Trump at the Indian casino, right? So, and then think about Kamala Harris too, right? Who's of Indian descent, not Native American, but Indian, right? But it's a related thing, right? Supposedly people call Native Americans Indians because Columbus thought he was into India, right? So, there's definitely a narrative going on there, but that video that I made, it's probably up there with the most views I've ever got on a video, and I have a ton of dislikes on it, so it's like funny, but moral of the story too, think about Moon, and they do it on my Space Jam video, and then there's the new Space Jam movie that's going to be coming out with LeBron James, and I'm going to edit a video into this deal because I'll just edit it because I don't want to hold my phone up to the speaker and so on. I'll just edit this video in here, or part of this video in here, but it's funny because the night before this happened, I took my girlfriend's brother to work, and on the way home I just started talking to myself about a lot of the things that are going on and a lot of my thoughts in regards to this knowledge, and the main thing that I really talked about to myself, I just started recording because I was like, oh, maybe I'll use this for my next video or something, right? And maybe because it kind of gathering my thoughts kind of thing, and it's funny because one of the main thing I talked about was how the Allen Iverson stuff and YouTube giving me that restriction and taking down my video was actually trying to teach me something about the number 19 and the number 65, right? And then the next day, I get a copyright claim on this video about Space Jam that's synced up to the same date that was important to the Allen Iverson stuff. And there's all kinds of stuff going on with it, but I went and looked up I said, maybe I'll watch the 76ers game after this happened. And so, actually, before I even talk anymore, this is the part where I'm going to put this video clip in so you can watch what I was talking about on the way home. So you understand why this is important, because I was talking about the Allen Iverson stuff, and then the next day I get a copyright claim that's actually showing me some stuff, and I'll show you why. But you have to understand that a lot of times it seems like they're teaching you something with this knowledge. For example, the Allen Iverson thing, like, it seems like a bad thing that YouTube would give my video a restriction and then, you know, completely remove it on the date 6/5 and so on. But truly what they were doing when they did that was that they were showing me that there was a pattern in my own life, and there was a pattern and a reason to why I put that video out. You know, so sometimes I wonder about the cabal. Like, if they didn't do that, then I would never notice a certain pattern, right? Just like when you get a trolled comment and you think, oh, you know, everybody, they're just trolling, they're trying to hate me. A lot of times they'll send you a random, strange, trolled comment, and if you really look into the person and what their name is and what they're talking about, a lot of times I've noticed that it's actually helping me understand a pattern, right? So when they restrict my video about Allen Iverson on the 65th day of the year, the same day Philadelphia plays their 65th game of the season, and Zach LaVine, who equals 65, you know, is the reason why the Chicago Bulls beat the Sixers on that game. And then, you know, they wait until the date of 6/5 to completely delete my video, and Philadelphia equals 65. They did that in the year 19. They waited, I put that video out in the year 15, and they waited until 2019 to do this. And that's because if you go back and look at my video, I put it out 6 months and 5 days after Allen Iverson's birthday, on the day that leaves 19 days in the year, right? So they wanted me to see the 65 and the 19, you know? So it's the day that leaves 19 days in the year. They do it in the year 19. Allen Iverson, born on 6/7, 67 is the 19th prime number. AI, his initials, or, you know, what people call him, A is the first letter, I is the 9th, 1-9. They wanted me to see the pattern with 19 and 65, right? They were showing me a pattern and something to pay attention to and follow. They were helping me understand a pattern, right? So we're sitting here always saying that the cabal is like these bad people, but sometimes I just don't think that's true. And I too agree. I see it every single day. I see how they code the news stories, 56 here, 56 there. You know, they literally are like ruling over people's minds with a bunch of fucking bullshit that you don't even need numbers to truly see when you look at the narrative. And, you know, you just look at the countless things that don't make sense. They're obviously using this knowledge to rule over us. But at the same time, it's confusing because sometimes, and a lot of times with me, it seems that something's helping me understand a pattern. So either that is the true God, or it's part of the cabal, or maybe an enemy of the cabal, or, you know, maybe it is the cabal. Maybe for some reason they're helping me. Maybe for some reason they're guiding me. You know, there's more that we need to learn and understand. But the true problem in this world, you know, so they can manipulate the world and do things by a certain code and rule and whatever, but the code exists everywhere. Everything happens by a reason. Everything is connected. So if they change something, it affects the way all of these other patterns work. It affects the way that the pattern in everyone's life is related, right? It's gonna have an effect on what is supposed to be happening in everyone's life, right? There's already a code. It's already written. Things are supposed to happen a certain way, and if they change something, it's going to have a ripple effect on how everybody's life works at some point. Maybe it's not right away. Maybe it's in 5 years. You know, there's a lot of different people, a lot of different things going on in the world. But when you think about how it all works that way, the real problem is that we either don't understand enough about why the world works this way, and we need to understand why there is a code that exists all around us, and all of these things happen for a reason, even though the cabal is using it to rule over us. The real problem is that the world works this way. You know, maybe we need to completely rid the world of this system somehow. Yeah, I don't know the answer, and all I am saying is that we need to ask questions, and we need to look deeper. And you know, we're not going to do that if you have guys like Rich on here telling people that none of this matters, and things that I've been showing for years aren't important, you know. And I've been showing how my life is synced up to the mainstream media stories. I've shown how other people's lives are synced up to the mainstream media stories. I've shown all of these different patterns that exist. And, you know, recently the pattern involved him with a Quinn theme, you know. And that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying he's a bad person because of it. I'm saying that everything happens for a reason, and everything's interrelated, everything's connected. And the true problem is that the world is this way. So yes, I want to stop the cabal from ruling over us. Thought I saw a deer, but holy crap. But I want to stop the cabal from ruling over us for sure. And we need to wake people up to the idea that the cabal is ruling their minds. But we also need to let people know that the world works this way, and to pay attention to the patterns in their own life. So hopefully we can get to the root of the problem. And I hope that makes sense. So anyway, there's the video. But in this post I wrote, maybe I'll watch the 76ers game because they played the Lakers just after Kobe Bryant dying. I think about Kobe Bryant being from Philadelphia and whatever. I wrote, I was at work, so I didn't really have time to look at it. I just wrote, if the 76ers lose, they'll be 12-7 on 12/7. What? That doesn't even make any sense. It's supposed to say 127, but yeah, see, I was at work trying to type this up real fast, but they would be 12-7 on 127. But I didn't realize until later that Philadelphia 76ers equal 13-6, or 136 as well. But look what happens in this Lakers game. The 76ers end up beating them with 107 points. And if you go back to the day that they restricted my video on 3/6 of 2019, the 76ers lost to the Chicago Bulls, and the 76ers scored 107 points in that game. So this game I'm watching, in connection to that, you know, they end up scoring the same amount of points, 107, and the leading player in the game just so happened to be Tobias Harris, who was the 19th pick in the draft, and he averages 19.8 points a game right now. He also, his birthday was 15/7, like Kobe Bryant's 157, and his name equals 58, like Los Angeles Lakers, like Kobe Bryant. And I pointed out some other stuff about how they were both drafted to Charlotte, and that stands out because a big thing I talked about with Philadelphia back in 2015 was the Hulk Hogan getting his revenge on Earthquake at the Spectrum, and Charlotte plays on the Spectrum Center, and Michael Jordan owns the Spectrum, and Philadelphia used to be called, the capital of the country Philadelphia used to be called the capital of the country Jordan used to be called Philadelphia, and then it was later destroyed by earthquakes. And this is also interesting because they scored 107 points, and the word earthquake equals 107. So, you know. And what's even funnier is the Spectrum Center in Charlotte, it also used to be called Time Warner Stadium. Think about that with the 9/11 and AT&T and so on, but, you know, 76ers became 13-6, and they equal 136. There's a total score of 213 points. Los Angeles, the 213 area code, Los Angeles equals 213. Kobe Bean Bryant, 213. The NBA Finals, 213. the Space Jam Teen Wolf stuff I was talking about, that was all important to Lupercalia, the wolf festival that begins on 2/13, right? Earthquake equals 213 and Francis Bacon with a capital E. Think about Los Angeles and earthquakes, so something important, right? And I even wrote down here how the number 156 seems important, and possibly the Lakers could be 15-6 against the Boston Celtics, who equal 156. And the 76ers could do the same thing against the Indiana Pacers on January 31st. And because that happened, both of that happened. They both became 15-6, and Philadelphia 76ers also equal 156. And they became 15-6. And look at this. The Lakers, when they did it, they won by 1 point. And the Sixers won by 9. 1-9. 19, right? 1-9-19. Like, what are the odds, you know? I also pointed out that it was interesting that the 76ers scored 119 points, you know, reminding us of the reflection of 9/11, and the Pacers had 110, which, you know, the Twin Towers 110 stories tall, and Osama bin Laden also equals 110. But, you know, 1-9. And I forgot to mention, too, when the 76ers and the Lakers played in this game, it just so happened to be both of their 19th game of the season, 14-5, 13-6, so they were both playing their 19th game of the season as well. So once again, this weird pattern, it was showing me to pay attention to the number 19, and, you know, and to my old post, and the 76ers end up scoring 107 points, just like how they scored 107 points clear back when, on March 6th of 2019, when YouTube restricted my video. You know, there's a definite interesting pattern going on with it. I want to look at some other things here really quick. There's just so many blog posts, I don't have time to do these half the time, but I talked about the Spectrum Center being important too, that's in Charlotte, and it used to be called Time Warner Cable Arena, and of course Charlotte Hornets equal 201, Spectrum equals 201, the Spectrum equals 201, NBA also equals 19, and the Spectrum, it says it seats 19,000 people, basketball's 185, right? Think about Buzz Aldrin, think about Sean Connery, think about World Trade Center. Recently we had a story about LaMelo Ball in the news too, and LaMelo Ball equals 185, so something interesting there. Let's go back and look at these Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk stories, though, from way back when here. Because there's something very important to it, and let's see here. I just want to point out, these Francis Bacon ciphers are just so ridiculously important, you know? Like, Zach doesn't ever talk about them, really. I've tried to get him to get on them, but I get it. He doesn't want to add more ciphers, but these ciphers are just absolutely so relative right now. They're just absolutely synced up. And look, Jeff Bezos equals 201. He also equals 186. Amazon was founded on the 186th day of the year, and when Elon Musk surpassed Jeff Bezos for the richest person in the world, it was 186 days after the day that Amazon was founded on the 186th day of the year. And Elon Reeve Musk equals 186. And Elon Reeve Musk's birthday is 6/28, the day that leaves 186 days in the year. And SpaceX equals 186. William Henry Gates equals 201. Talked about this before, but Bill Gates equals 172 in the Francis Bacon ciphers. And the story about Elon Musk, that story came 172 days before Elon Musk's birthday. And then, of course, you know, there is the whole narrative with Microsoft and New Mexico, and think about, you know, Area 51 and Roswell and so on. And then you got Bill Gates from Seattle, you know, also Jeff Bezos and the Space Needle. I mean, there is a huge narrative going on here. Paul Allen, the other guy who founded Microsoft, right? Look at his name, 186, 201. That's also a big number I've talked about in connection to Zach. And YouTube giving him his copyright strike and so on. That's why, they took down his first channel. That's why earlier this year they suspended his channel over a video about Elon Musk and SpaceX, and they did that 218 days before Elon Musk's birthday. You know, and Elon Musk also has a connection to, look at Elon Musk equals 218 in the Francis Bacon ciphers, right? So it's super important. That's why All for Truth launched 218 days before Zach's birthday, and a whole lot more. Well, let's go back up here. I want to find the next post that I did. Put another one in here about Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg. Microsoft was founded 208 days before Bill Gates' birthday. Bill Gates equals 208 in the Francis Bacon ciphers, right? Paul Allen died a span of 172 days before the anniversary of Microsoft. Bill Gates equals 172 in the Francis Bacon ciphers. Also talk about Mark Zuckerberg. He equals 316 in the Francis Bacon ciphers. And Facebook, the way the logo is with the lowercase f, also equals 316. And Mark Zuckerberg without it equals 84, and Facebook with a capital F equals 84. It's also funny, too, how Elon Musk, also owns Tesla. Think about Tesla and the key to the universe in 369, and Elon Musk in the Francis Bacon ciphers equals 369. And he surpassed Jeff Bezos on 1/7, which is the 78th anniversary of Nikola Tesla dying. But in regards to that number 264, notice if you go from the day that Elon Musk surpassed Jeff Bezos, it was 264 days before the Jesuit anniversary. And remember, when he surpassed him with 191 billion, and Jeff Bezos had 187 billion, and Bill Gates supposedly has 132 billion. And if you write out Society of Jesus, it equals 191 and 187, and Catholic Church equals 132, and so on, right? So it is connected to the Jesuits, and notice it's 264 days before the Jesuit anniversary, and Elon Musk equals 264, Jeffrey Preston Bezos 264. It's that big number important to Sean Connery, right? Sean Connery 264. He was 56 years old at the time. Now he's 57. The word moon equals 57. And Elon Musk also equals 57. Right? The word moon equals 57. We're currently in the 51st anniversary of the moon landing in the year 21. Think about it out too when I was talking about the Hebrew lettering. I can't type it up, but in the Hebrew lettering, it said that the word moon was 11 as well. And think about Apollo 11 and how Apollo 11 was the first one to land on the moon. Right? Apollo 11. It was during the time of Cancer, the sign that looks like a number 69, and then it happens in the year 69. It happens just before the Charles Manson murders. And I talked about how the Charles Manson murders are important to Harley Quinn, or the actress who plays Harley Quinn, because she's also in that movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where she portrays Sharon Tate, and a whole lot more. But now, this will put out the story with Jeff Bezos again. So we got these two stories right next to each other. Jeff Bezos stepping down as the CEO of Amazon, and then we got the SpaceX Mars rocket explodes on the landing again or whatever, right? And Elon Musk. And, they put them right next to each other, but this happened on 2/2, which was 146 days before Elon Musk's birthday. And it was also 6 months and 28 days after the anniversary of Amazon being founded. And Elon Musk's birthday is 6/28, 146 days, or a span of 147, but 146 is absolutely fitting if you know the Francis Bacon ciphers, like Jeff Bezos, 146, SpaceX, 146. Once again, they both equal 186. 628 leaves 186 days of the year. Elon Reeve Musk 186. So there's, there's a definite thing. It's also 212 days after the anniversary of Amazon. And where did I put that at? Oh, I just wrote it in here. But Seattle, Washington, 212. COVID-19 equals 212. COVID, with all capital letters like it's supposed to be, but CNN doesn't do that all the time. COVID equals 212. Once again, think about coronavirus, Space Needle. The story came 21 days after Jeff Bezos' birthday. Think, once again, Moon 21, the year 21, 51st anniversary. He turned 57. He's going to be replaced by the 53-year-old Andy Jassy. Andy Jassy equals 118 and 53. 118 is important because Amazon and Francis Bacon equals 118. So, we also just recently had Marilyn Manson. He's been in the news like crazy over, supposedly he is sexually assaulting all these women now, right? And it's like, well, duh. But, it's just part of the narrative and so on. Who knows if he really did or didn't or whatever, but it's just all part of the narrative they've been building. But forever, I've talked about Marilyn Manson being important to the moon landing. He was important to the Stoneman Douglas shooting that happened just after the Falcon Heavy launch that was all synced up to the anniversary of the moon landing. And Marilyn Manson began his tour with the Heaven Upside Down tour on the anniversary of the moon landing. And his birthday is 1-5 or 5/1. Moon equals 15 and 51. He was born in the year 1969, the same year as the moon landing. And I know I'm supposed to see this because I recently was talking to Bobby. He's been telling me about the show American Gods. And then Marilyn Manson was on that show and he got kicked off of that show. He's not going to be on that show anymore. It's something I've talked about a lot. I've talked about Marilyn Manson a whole lot. And when Marilyn Manson even started his Heaven Upside Down tour in 2017, I talked about how that was the same day that Chester Bennington of Lincoln Park had died. And Lincoln Park is in Chicago where the St. Valentine's Day Massacre happened. And we got the death of that John Hurd, the dad in Home Alone. So I knew there was, and then there was a gangster named like Jacquees or something, rapper, that got killed. And yeah, it was something, they made sure you knew it was gangster, reminding you of Home Alone kind of, and once again, Chicago. And then later that year, we got the Stoneman Douglas shooting, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, and it was right near Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where Marilyn Manson is from, and Marilyn Manson, his biggest inspiration is David Bowie, and remember David Bowie was that Falcon Heavy launch or whatever that Elon Musk launched his Tesla Roadster up there with. He had the David Bowie song playing, a space oddity that came out just before the anniversary, just before the moon landing in 1969, and a whole lot more. But it was all synced up. But notice if you go from that story came on 2/1 of the year 21. Think about moon. And it was 218 days before this lady's birthday. 9/7. Evan Rachel Wood. 218 days. It was also exactly 21 weeks after her birthday. On 2/1 of 21. Craziness. And of course, he wrote the song Heart-Shaped Glasses, and it was inspired by her and so on. And when you go and read about it, like, that album was made famous, or they promoted it by the Rape of the World tour. Oh, the odds, Rape of the World. There's a whole lot more going on with it, but I just want to show the connection to the moon, and I've been talking about Marilyn Manson being connected to the moon for a long time. If you go back and read my blog post about Marilyn Manson, a lot of them have to do with the moon. So we'll leave it at that. Maybe I'll make some other videos sometime later today. I actually don't have to work, but I have just so much synchronicity, I don't even know how to, like, keep up with these videos half the time. I get so far behind, then I gotta go back and remember, like, 10 million things and try to piece together this, to keep a narrative going with what I am talking about. There's a lot of stuff. I want to make shorter videos a lot of times, but they just never turn into it. Because a lot of these things are related, but whatever, I'm going to quit rambling. And maybe I'll make some more videos, but hopefully this one makes sense. But there's a definite connection to the moon, the Bond girl, the RV bombing, Allen Iverson, and so on. And have a good one, I guess. Peace.